Welcome to Money Master the Game, 7 simple steps to financial freedom. Let's just start with the concept of money. You know, there's very few words that have the power to provoke such extreme human emotions, right? If you talk about money, a lot of people refuse to talk about it. It's kind of like religion or sex or politics. The topic's kind of taboo at the dinner table and maybe off limits in the workplace. But, you know, some people talk about wealth. You can talk about it in polite company, but money is kind of explicit. It's raw, it's garish, it's intensely personal, and it's highly charged with people. It can make people feel guilty when they have it, or they can feel ashamed when they don't have it. But what does it really mean? For some of us, money is vital and crucial, but it's not paramount. It's simply a tool, a source of power that you can use in service of others in a life well lived. Now, others are consumed with money. I know you've met people, I have too, that are so hungry for money that it just destroys them, and oftentimes everyone around them. Some people are even willing to give up things that are much more valuable than money for it, like their health, or their time, or their family, or their self-worth, in some cases, even their integrity. But at its core, money's really about power. I mean, really, we've all seen how money can have the power to create or the power to destroy. You can fund a dream or you can start a war. You can provide money as a gift or you can wield it as a weapon. It can be used as an expression of your spirit and your creativity and your ideas, or your frustration, your anger, and your hate. It can be used to influence governments and individuals. Some people marry for it and then they find out the real price of money, right? I hope you haven't done that. But we all know that at some level, if you really think about it, money is an illusion. It isn't even gold or even paper today. Think about it, it's zeros and, you know, little blanks in banking computers really at this point. X's and O's, if you would. And if you think about it, what is money really? Well, it kind of takes the shape of whatever you make it to be in your mind. It's like a shapeshifter or a canvas. It assumes whatever meaning or emotion you project on it. And in the end, money isn't what we're after anyway, is it? And what do you really want when people say, I want more money? What they want is some kind of feeling. They want some emotion. They want the feeling that they think money can create, the feeling of empowerment, or the feeling of feeling free or secure, or of helping. I got the freedom to be able to help the people I love. Or maybe it's the feeling that you have the choice to live life on your terms, the feeling of being alive. And money certainly can be one of the ways in which we can turn our dreams into reality, and going from talking about stuff to make it happen, because it's leverage. But even if money is just a perception or some kind of abstract concept, it doesn't feel that way if you don't have enough of it, right? And one thing is for sure, you either use it or it uses you. You either master money, or at some level, money masters you. So how do you deal with money? And how you deal with it really reflects how you deal with power. Is it for you an affliction or a blessing? A game or a burden? Now let me just tell you, when I first started to write this book and I shared with a few people the title, some people got really outraged that I suggested that money could be a game. You know, how could I possibly use such a frivolous term for such a serious topic? But I looked at people, I thought, let's get real. As you'll see in the kind of pages of the book, as you start to thumb through it, you're going to find that the best way to change your life in any area is to find people who've already achieved what you want and just model their behavior. Success leaves clues. So want to master your finances? Find a financial master and imitate what he or she does with money, and you'll have found what I call a pathway to power, a way to get from where you are to where you want to be that is proven. I can tell you right now, I've interviewed many of the wealthiest people literally in the world, and most of them do think of money as a game. Why else would somebody work 10 or 12 hours a day after they already made billions of dollars? And remember something else. Not all games are frivolous. I always tell people, games are a reflection of life. Some people sit on the sidelines, some people play to win. How do you play? Well, I want to remind you one more thing too, and that is, this is a game that you and your family can't afford to lose. So my promise to you out of this series is really simple. You read this book, and I can promise you, if you'll follow these 7 simple steps, and you actually do what I share with you, a step at a time, and remember that those steps are not made up from me, they're the ones I've distilled from the world's greatest financial players, the most brilliant minds in the world. If you do that, you'll win this game, and you can win big. But to win, you're going to have to know the rules, and you're going to have to learn the best strategies for success from those that have already mastered the game. And the good news is that you can save years of time, and maybe, and sometimes in a few minutes. See, ignorance, the pain of ignorance can go on for years. A mistake by not knowing certain answers can cost you a decade of your life financially. But when you know the right thing to do, and you do it at the right time, you can compress time. You can compress decades into days. You literally can have shortcuts to achieving financial success. And that's what this book is really all about. Now, the financial industry often works to make the topic of money feel incredibly complex as possible. In reality, once you get past all the jargon, it's relatively simple. I mean, I really look at this book as you go through it as an opportunity for you to stop being the chess piece and become the chess player. The chess player in the game of money, that is. So I think you're going to be very surprised. I think you're going to discover that once you have an insider's understanding, you're going to easily transform your financial life and enjoy the freedom that you really deserve. So let's do it. Let's just start to imagine something really simple. Let's start with, what would life be like if money really didn't matter anymore? I mean, what if it really didn't matter? What if you felt like you didn't have to worry about money? You didn't have to go to an office each morning. You didn't have to pay for any bills. You didn't have to worry about, living life on anything other than your own terms. What would it mean to you to know that you had an opportunity set in your life that, whether it be business opportunities or being able to afford to buy a home, or for your parents, for your friends, be able to send your kids to college, travel the world? How would you live your life if you could wake up each and every day knowing you had enough money not only coming in to cover your basic needs, but also your goals and dreams as well? Well, the truth is, a lot of us would probably keep working, because that's just the way we're wired. But we do it from a different place, a place of joy and abundance. Our work would just continue, but the rat race would end. That's when you have financial freedom. When it's not that you don't work, it's you don't have to. The question, though, you got to be asking, and I'm sure you will be when you're reading this book, is that a pipe dream? Is it really possible today for the average person, or is it possible for you to really make this dream a reality? And whether you want to live like the 1% or you just want the peace of mind of knowing that you won't outlive your savings, the truth is you can always find a way to make money you need. How? I always tell people the secret to wealth is simple. All you have to do is find a way to do more for others than anybody else is doing. Become more valuable, do more, give more, be more, serve more. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to earn more if you really want to. Whether you own the best food truck in Austin, Texas, or you're a salesperson, top salesperson at your company, or you're the founder of Instagram, what I can tell you is this book isn't just about adding value, though. It's really about how to go from where you are today to where you really want to be financially. How to get that financial security, independence, or freedom that you deserve. And it's about increasing the quality of life you have today, not just someday in the future, by developing the one fundamental skill that most Americans have not mastered, the mastery of money. In fact, statistics are scary. 77% of Americans, that's 3 out of every 4 people, say they have significant financial worries, but less than 40% have any kind of spending plan or investment plan. 1 in 3 baby boomers has less than $1,000 now. I mean, that rocks my world, and not in a positive way, and it must yours too. And polls show that fewer than 1 in 4 trust their financial system, meaning the people they work with or the system as a whole, and I think for good reason. Stock ownership today, right now, is starting to hit record lows, particularly amongst young people, millennials especially. But the truth is, you don't have to earn your way to freedom. And I'm going to show you later in this book, really, how these multi-million-dollar earners, like Francis Ford Coppola, who created The Godfather, one of the greatest directors in history, or Mike Tyson, one of the most incredible boxers in history, or actress Kim Basinger, people that made more money than most people would ever dream in their life, making that money didn't matter because they didn't keep it. And I'm going to show you don't have to make a ton to be truly financially free. All you have to do is hold on to a portion of what you earn for you and your family and know how to multiply it, how to grow it while you sleep, and financial security for a lifetime will be yours. And if you do it well, financial freedom, where you can do literally anything you want, and you have the money to do it. And I know that sounds like a big promise, but the good news is I'm not telling you how to do this from my perspective. I'm going to walk you through this by showing you the best of people that started with absolutely nothing and now are some of the most successful financial individuals on the face of the planet. We have to make a shift from being, if you and I are going to be successful, from being consumers, we're constantly thinking about what we're going to get, to really being owners. That's the day you become an investor. And I know most of us don't think we have money to become an investor because we think that takes a lot of money. The smallest amount of money can be grown into a fortune. Sir John Templeton was one of my dearest role models, and a man I got to spend time with multiple times before he died over a period of almost 25 years. The man started with nothing, became one of the richest men in the world. In fact, today, his Templeton Foundation delivers more money to people making a difference in the world in the spiritual sense, and they have a way of evaluating that, than the Nobel Prize. He started with nothing, so anyone can do it. Actually, a lot of us, by the way, even though we don't think of ourselves as investors, really are already investors. Maybe you first got in the game when, grandma bought you a few shares of your favorite stock, or which was her favorite stock back then when you were born, right? Or perhaps maybe you became an investor when your employer auto-enrolled you in the company's 401k plan. Or maybe you first became an investor when a friend told you, forget the Kindle and buy Amazon stock instead. But is that really enough? You wouldn't be listening to me right now, and you wouldn't have gone forward to get this book if you thought it was enough. You know the truth. If you're reading this right now, my guess is you know that it's going to take more than that you've got to learn how to master this game. And I don't have to tell you that it's not the same game that your parents or grandparents went through. It's a totally different investment world. The plan used to be really simple. What did we do? You went to college, right? Got a great degree, worked your tail off, went to work for a really huge corporation, moved up, and after that, you added enough value that you moved up the ladder, you invested maybe in the company stock, and you retired with a pension. Remember that, a pension? That promise of never-ending income for as long as you live, even though you're not working? Those are relics for most of us. You and I know that the world that everybody else knew before us around finances is over. We now live in a world that's where you're going to live longer and you're going to have less money to do it unless you really learn how to invest in even small amounts to compound into big amounts. And now there's new technologies that keep everything going faster. Online, system is stoking constantly for people to, somebody trying to get us to do something that's going to separate us from our money instead of helping us grow it. So when I first wrote these words, for this book, first started writing it about a year and a half ago, interest rates on savings were near zero. And the markets were rising and falling like corks on the ocean. And meanwhile, we're all trying to make a decision about what to do financially, but we're faced with a system that's got literally at this point, limitless choices, mind-boggling complexity. I mean, right now, try this on for size. There are more than 10,000 mutual funds with 1,400 different ETFs and hundreds of global stock exchanges to choose from all over the world. It seems like every day we're pitched one more new, more complex investment, some instrument. It's an alphabet soup of acronyms now, CDOs and CDSs and REITs and MBSs and MLPs and CETFs. My response is WTF, right? How about HFT? Have you heard that one? High frequency trading. That's where 50 to 70% of tens of millions of trades that churn through the market every day come from. They're generated by high-speed machines today. What does that mean for you and me? It means you can take, in a half a second that it takes you and I to click on your mouse there, our mouse, to get at E-Trade order to buy Apple or whatever you're purchasing. In that short time, the big boys with these supercomputers will have literally bought and sold thousands of shares of the same stock hundreds of times over and making micro profits with every single transaction. In fact, I don't know if you saw, but Michael Lewis wrote a great best-selling book recently on the HFT exposure called Flash Boys. It's a Wall Street revolt, he called it. And in 60 Minutes interview, he said that the United States stock market, quote, is the most iconic market in global capitalism, and it's rigged. He said it's rigged by a combination of the stock exchanges, the big Wall Street banks, and the high-frequency traders. He explained that you're able to identify your shares that you're about to buy in Microsoft before you buy them, get in front of you, sell them back to you at a higher price. How fast are these guys? Well, one HFT firm spent $250 million to straighten the fiber optic cables between Chicago and New York, literally restructuring the landscape, terraforming the earth to shave 1.4 milliseconds off their transaction time. Remember 500 milliseconds just to put your mouse, half a second? 1.4. They spent $250 million for it. That's how competitive it is. That's how profitable it is. But even that's not fast enough now. Some trades are already taking place in microseconds. That's a millionth of a second. And soon HFT technology supposedly will trade in nanoseconds, a billionth of a second. Meanwhile, they're laying cable on the floor of the ocean that's supposed to go between different continents now. There's even talk of solar-powered drones acting with microwave relay stations to connect exchanges in New York and London faster. If all this leaves you a bit reeling, I'm with you. What are your chances of competing with flying robots trading at the speed of light? Where do you turn to find a path through all this high-tech, crazy maze of investing? How do you find choices that really matter? Well, I think the way you do it is you come back and realize you don't compete with that. There is a way. The problem is when you come to money and you come to investing and you try to get opinions, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a tip. Everybody's got an answer. But I'll give you a hint. They're rarely going to have one that really will help you. Have you noticed how beliefs about money are like religion or politics? I mean, conversations get really intense and emotional, especially online, where people, without any real knowledge, without any mastery, without any track record, will promote their theory and criticize everybody else's strategy with a vehemence that's unbelievable, even though they've got no results themselves. It's kind of like a psychologist on Prozac telling you, how you can have a fulfilled life, or an obese person telling you how to get fit and thin. I mean, I like to separate the pundits from those who talk the talk and those who walk the walk. And I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you've seen plenty of these people on TV, and I'm sick and tired of them, the ones that are the experts that tell us what to do, but they haven't produced results in their own life. If you thought you're going to hear from some investment guru here, and I was going to make you some crazy promises in this program, you've come to the wrong place. Because I'm here to let you know that I'll leave that to those financial entertainers that are going to scream to you about buying the hottest stock, ringing and banging on the well with a bell, and then telling you to put your money in some mythical mutual fund. The one where they tell you you're going to get continuously compounded money at 12% per annum for decades to come. Most intelligent people know that doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't for at least a decade. These people dole out advice that too often has no basis in reality, and often they don't even invest in the products that they push. Some of them might be sincere, but look, you can be sincere and be sincerely wrong. And so if you want to know what I'm about, I'm not about painting some positive thinking picture that says, I'm going to pump you up and give you some false view of the world, how rosy everything's going to believe. I don't operate that way. I believe in intelligence. You see, you have to see things, I believe, as they really are, but not worse than it is. Because when you make it worse than it is, it just gives you an excuse to do nothing. So you may know me from being like the smiling guy on TV and those infomercials in those early days 20 years ago, but I'm really not here to tell you that just, do a bunch of affirmations and it's all going to work out for you. I'm the guy to tell you it's time to focus, go deep, it's time to solve the real problems and take your life to the next level. And I'm coming up on my 38th year of doing this, and I've been obsessed with finding the strategies and the tools that can immediately change the quality of people's lives. I've proven their effectiveness by providing measurable results for people for literally 37, now almost 38 years. So far, I've reached 50 million people from 100 different countries through my books and my audio, my video programs, and another 4 million people have gone to my live events. So what I've known from the beginning is that success leaves clues. People who succeed at the highest level aren't lucky. They're doing something different than everybody else. And I'm interested in those people. I'm interested in those people who have this relentless hunger that they've got to learn, they've got to grow, they've got to achieve. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not deluded. I'm well aware that very few people in the world are fit and healthy and sustain that. Most people don't have decades of sustained love and passion in their relationship. They just don't. Most people aren't experiencing ongoing gratitude and joy in their life every day. Most people, or very few people, maximize really their business opportunities. 96% of all businesses are gone after 10 years. 96% fail. And there are even fewer people that start with little or nothing and become financially free. So why am I telling you all this? Because a few people do. A few people do have great relationships, great joy, great wealth, endless gratitude. And I've studied the few who do versus the many who talk. If you want to look for obstacles, what's wrong is always available, but so's what's right. What I am is a hunter of human excellence. I seek out those individuals who break through the norms and demonstrate to everybody else what's really possible. And I learn from those individuals. I find out what's extraordinary about them. I find out what's different about them than everybody else. And then I emulate them. I find out what works, and then I clarify what they do. I simplify it, and I systematize it into a way to help millions of people move forward and get the same results. And that's what this book is really about. Now, let me just tell you for a second why I wrote this book. Ever since 2008, and those were pretty dark days, if you remember. The global financial system literally looked like it was melting down. I've been obsessed with finding a way to help everyday people take back control of their money, to find a way to fight against the system that often has been rigged against them. Most people know, just like Michael Lewis talked about, the fix has been in for years. And all those so-called reforms on Capitol Hill, well, frankly, some of those situations, some of those areas are worse. So I decided if I'm going to find the answers, if I'm really going to be able to bring answers, and it's just not my silly ideas, I got to depend on the people that literally are the most successful on earth. And I decided I was going to interview 50 of the most brilliant, influential players in the world of money. In this book, when you go through and you read it, I hope you're going to take this and just read it like a chapter a day. You can do this book literally a little bit more than 30 days, or a section a week. There's 7 sections, or go crazy like I would and go over a long weekend, read it day and night, absorb it all. But when you get through this book, you're not going to be reading some talking heads view of things. You're not going to get my opinions. You're going to hear straight from the masters of the game, self-made billionaires, Nobel laureates, and financial titans. Here's just a sample of a few of the masters of money that you're going to be learning from when you start to read these pages. First, Jack Bogle. How about Ray Dalio, David Swenson, Kyle Bass, Carl Icahn, Mary Callahan Erdos from JP Morgan, Charles Schwab. I'm going to put you in the room with these people and many other superstars that you may not even know, and I'm going to have them show you how they get consistent results, decade after decade, making money no matter what the markets are. Up, down, booms, busts, don't matter. Together, you and I are going to uncover the core secrets that are their secrets to investment and financial success, and we're going to show you how to apply them to your life with even the smallest amount of money. In other words, we're going to take what ultra wealthy people do and show you how you can do it with $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever amount of money that you're going to save up and invest. And I'm going to show you more to get that money for the people who think I have nothing to start with. And here's the key. I wrote this book based on the timeless wisdom of literally the most successful investors in the world. Most of us know, things aren't going to stay the same. They never do. So since none of us knows where the economy is going to be when you're watching this video or when you start to read this book, which I hope is read immediately after this video, that's the whole reason I'm getting you in state, my hope is that you'll take a look and realize, wow, whether there's inflation or deflation, whether we're in a bull market or bear market, the ideas that you're learning in this book will allow you not just to survive, but to thrive in any market conditions. You're really meeting the experts that have done well in every environment. Plus, we'll be opening the portfolios, literally showing you the mix of investments that each one of these mega investors, brilliant investors, has relied on to weather through all the storms. They're going to answer the question that I ask each of them, which is, if you couldn't pass on any of your wealth to your children, but only a set of principles or only a strategy or portfolio, what would it be? They're all going to answer that question. And as you read, you're going to discover you're going to get what I would call the greatest inheritance of all, and you don't even have to be their kid to get it. Now, by the way, if you're thinking, Tony, okay, a lot of big promises, but retirement's a long way. I don't want to read a retirement book. This is not a retirement book. This is an extraordinary quality of life book. This book, if you'll take the time to go through it, I promise you, will show you how to get ready right now and to start getting the benefits you want in your life right now. In other words, not just in the future. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to take you through a 7 simple step process that's going to show you how to get financially secure, independent, or free. And I'm going to explain what those 3 mean once we get there, because they're different goals. There's a short-term, medium, and long-term. So whether you're a millennial just getting started, or a baby boomer facing retirement, or a really sophisticated investor that really just wants to get your edge, find out what Ray Dalio does without paying $5 billion, then this book's going to offer you a really practical blueprint for setting and achieving your financial goals, and it's going to help you break free of whatever limiting behaviors maybe have kept you from doing this and achieving wealth or abundance in the past. We're going to explore the psychology of wealth, something I've studied literally for most of my life, almost 4 decades. And we're going to tackle the money mistakes people make, zeroing in on those things that keep people from really being able to follow through on their best made plans. I mean, I always say, talk is cheap. Knowledge is not power. Execution's everything. I'm going to show you what keeps you from following through, what keeps you from executing. And I've done this by going to the best behavioral economists literally on earth. And I've gotten them to share with me their solutions. These guys spend their entire lives trying to figure out what is it in human beings that makes us do the wrong thing around money, and what little tricks can they do that will automatically make our nervous system make simple adjustments that trigger us to do the things other people have to be disciplined to do, and we just do it automatically. And it makes the difference between whether you get to retire comfortably, have a great life to now, or find yourself looking for a job in your 70s or dying broke. Look, it's pretty harsh, but let's face it. So many smart, accomplished people have put this area of money kind of on the back burner in their life. They set it aside because, as I said, it seems so complicated and overwhelming. I'm going to help you change that. One of the first people that I gave this manuscript to of this book when I first started was a brilliant woman who's really accomplished. She's mastered many areas of her life. She's been not mastered money, but she told me that a lot of people think I'm amazing because she said I've traveled 20,000 miles of ocean almost around the world, from the roughest seas on the planet with a small sailboat. She's a courageous, tough, strong, smart lady. But she said, no matter how smart I am, I've been negligent with my finances and I'm embarrassed. She said, it seems so confusing. I just didn't feel confident, and I already felt defeated before I started, so I just gave up. And she goes, that's not even my nature, but around money I did. So if you are not mastering money up until now, no problem. People have deliberately made it difficult for you because that's how they get your money. I want to make you the expert. And I can tell you that in this woman's case, she found that literally by following these simple 7 steps, she could finally take control of her finances, and she was able to do it painlessly. When I say painlessly, I mean within a very short period of time, she wasn't just setting herself up for the future, but her quality of life changed today. Now, one of the cool things was, I was talking to her one day and she said, I don't know how many chapters we were into it, 5 or 6 chapters into it. And she said, I didn't just save for my future. She said, I really figured out how to have more joy today. And once she started thinking about saving and investing, something she never really focused on before, and she saw some of these cool strategies that speed all this up and give you a better return and things that made it automatic, it was by chapter, I think it was 2.8, she said, she had already transformed her life. A few days later, she came to see me and she said, look, I got my first ever brand new car. And I said, wow. And I said, how'd you do that? She goes, well, I did the process she showed me, and I began to realize I was spending more money on my old car for repairs and gas than it cost me to finance a brand new car. And she said, I have a better quality of life, and the money I'm saving, I'm now putting that money on the side for investing. I have more money to invest, and I got a brand new, shiny, pearlescence white Jeep Wrangler. She was pretty excited about it. So I want you to know that this book is not just about how do I have a comfortable retirement, but it's really to have a quality of life that you deserve and that you desire today. You can live on life on your own terms. You don't have to be beholden to other people if you really learn the fundamentals of how to master this area of your life. So really I want you to know this is a quality of life book. And I want you to know that the feeling of empowerment as you go through these videos, and most importantly, as you go through the book, that feeling of empowerment, when it starts to enter your body, it gives you an inner strength. It gives you a sense of certainty, and it gives you momentum. And when you start to master the financial area of your life, I can promise you it'll start to spill over to your career or to your health, to your body, to your emotions, to your relationships. When you lack confidence in one area of your life around money, it can't help but unconsciously affect the way you feel about other areas of your life as well. But when you take charge of your finances, it empowers you, it excites you, it allows you to take on other challenges with a different level of confidence. What really holds us back from getting started on the road to financial freedom? Well, for most of us, it's that feeling that we're in over our heads. We've been taught to think it's too complex. This is not my field. Frankly, the system's really designed to be confusing so that you'll give up control of those to those professionals. You're the ones who are going to charge you enormous fees while you think you're only being charged 1%. And they keep you in the dark about everything else because it has a different word than fee attached to it, but it's still money out of your pocket. I want to show you in this book, you're going to learn how to really, as you go through these chapters, you're going to learn how to prevent that from happening to you. And most importantly, I'm going to show you that investing your way to freedom isn't really confusing at all. So where do we start? I decided to start this journey with a person that most people have never heard of, even though he's called the Steve Jobs of investing, and some people call him the Da Vinci of investing. Pretty heavy terms. But when you ask any of the world's financial leaders, whether they know who this man is, whether it be the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, or whether it be the head of investment banks, or even the President of the United States, they all know the name Ray Dalio of Bridgewater. Why? Because they read his weekly briefing. Because government's calling him to figure out what to do to invest their money. This is a guy that the largest pension funds and insurance companies go to. He's the founder of Bridgewater and Associates. It's the world's largest hedge fund. To give you perspective, wealthy people put their money with a hedge fund because they can buy money, they can make money when the markets go up or down, they can invest in so many different ways. They use leverage. Wealthy people tend to try and get their money there. A large hedge fund might be $15 billion. But Ray's little business is a $160 billion business, the largest hedge fund on earth. And in order to work with Ray in the past, 10 years ago, you had to have a $5 billion net worth to be able to get advice from him and work with him, and you had to make your initial investment, a minimum was $100 million. It's not the 1% he works with, it's the 0.001%, right? And what's so interesting, though, is for the last 10 years, he hasn't taken anybody's money, no matter what it is. He just won't do it. So Ray Dalio comes from an interesting background. Just give you his background, then let me show you what I learned from him that will touch your life. He comes from a background that's you'd never expect for a financial genius. Comes from Queens, New York. His parents, one was a jazz musician and the other was a homemaker and great mom. And he started out just being a caddy, at a local golf club, and he started getting stock picks and he started to get interested at the local golf course, talking to some of these successful people. Well, today he's now worth $14 billion, and he's the 31st richest man in the United States. How do you do it? I'd like to have you show how to find out. So by the way, how's he perform? Let me give you a clue. Here's a man whose pure alpha fund Ray's fund, the Barron said, has only lost money 3 times in 20 years. And in 2010, he produced a 40% return for his key clients. Over the life of his fund, which started in 1991, over the last 23 years, he's produced a 21% compounded annual return before fees. Now, if there's anyone I wanted to ask, the average investor, can you and I still make money in these crazy markets with all this HFT and all this complexity, all this volatility? It was Ray. So when he told me, Tony, there's no question you can win, I was all ears. How about you? Listen, it's not easy to get access to Ray Dalio, but it turns out Ray already knew who I was, and he was a fan of my work. And one afternoon, I sat down with him in this surprisingly modest home he has on a wooded island off the Connecticut coast. And he got right to the point, telling me that individual investors like you and I can win, but only if we don't try to beat the pros at their own game. He said, what they got to know, Tony, is they can win. You can win, but you can't do it by trying to beat the system. You don't want to try to beat the market. He said, I have 1,500 employees and 40 years of experience, and it's a tough game for me. He said, this is poker with the best poker players on earth. And if you meet Ray, he's amazing. He's 65 years old, and he speaks like this soft New York accent, and he uses his hands like a conductor when he's talking to you. He reminds me that poker, like playing markets, he told me, it's a zero-sum game. For every winner in the stock market, there's got to be a loser. And as soon as you're in that game, you're not just playing poker with the guy across the table from you. It's a world poker game. And there's only a tiny number, small percentage of people that make real money in it. They make a lot, but there's only a few that do. And he said, for you to make money against them and beat the market, you got to take money away from those guys that are the best in the world of the game. He said, so I'd say to your investors, he told me, he said, the average guy, you don't want to try and beat the market. You don't want to try and get in that game. So I said to Ray, well, if you're telling me they can't compete in the market, should they be thinking twice about going to some financial broker or wealth manager or mutual fund manager? And he said, Tony, look, you think when you go to one of these people that you're going to like a doctor, but you're not. They're not a doctor. He told me they're trained to throw you and I are trained to throw our total faith into these people. He said, but the problem is they're not doctors. And whatever they tell us, they often have their own interests. And even when they don't, when they're totally sincere, they can be sincerely wrong. They don't have all the answers. He said the typical money managers are not going to help you win because they don't have the skills or the resources to play in the big game. He said if they did, Tony, you wouldn't have access to them. The average person wouldn't. His way of describing it to me was to use a metaphor. He said, it's like the Olympics. He said, that's what you compare to what we do. He said, it's more competitive than the Olympics because the Olympics only happens every 4 years and you prepare for a few seconds. This is the Olympics 24/7, 365, where you got to constantly perform at that level. He said, you can go to your broker dealer or your wealth manager. And you might think, well, this guy's a smart guy, he said, or he really cares about me, or he's even put his money where my money is. And Ray said, yes, he might be smart. He might really care about you. He might be sincere. He might have done okay. But he said, the question you got to ask yourself is how many gold medals has he won? See, you have to be very, very careful because there are so many people who want to give you advice. And in reality, that's not good enough. Are they good enough to win against the best? That's what matters. So you might say, well, Tony, this is wonderful. Tell me the wonderful story about how these multi-billionaires they're the only ones that can win and I can't, but I can still win the game. Yes, you can do it in a different way. What's the answer? He said, instead of trying to compete, he said, you got to learn what he calls a passive way to win. He said, there's a way, Tony, not to put all your eggs in one basket. It's a system to protect yourself against all the downsides. And because the best investors know something, Tony, they know they're going to be wrong no matter how smart they are. I said, wait a second. Ray Dalio, the guy that gets a compounded return of 21% for 23 straight years, he's going to be wrong? He said, yeah, Tony, that's right. I'm going to be wrong. He said, we're all going to be wrong. So you've got to have a system that protects you from when you're wrong so you can still win and be successful. So at the end of nearly 3 hours, I was sitting there with him and I finally asked him the question. I said, Ray, what's that system? And Ray said to me, Tony, the last time I took money, he told me the whole story. $5 billion net worth, had to have $100 million. And he said, it's really complex. It changes a lot. I really can't share it. And I turned to him, I said, look, Ray, I said, you're an incredibly generous human being. I know you're giving away half your net worth. I know that you're not taking anybody's money anyway now. No one has access to you anymore. And I know you care about people. I said, tell me, if you couldn't pass on your money to your kids, you can only pass on a set of principles or a portfolio or a system. something that would allow them make money in good times and in bad, something that would allow them to be financially successful and better than all these average investors, what would it be? He went back and forth a little bit, and then I'll never forget, he looked at me and said, well, I can't do it exactly, but I can give you something that's pretty good. It's not the same as what I do. And I said, I understand that, but your basic design is going to be better than anybody else's best design. And so he walked me through this investment mix, this actual simple step-by-step formula that when it's been tested shows to have one of the least amounts of downside volatility ever, meaning you don't have to go through those gut checks of losing money in large amounts, and yet it's had extraordinary upside. Now, by the way, if you don't know what a portfolio is, I know many of you are very sophisticated that are watching this or will be reading this book, and some aren't. So along the way, I'll make it clear what I'm talking about. All it really is just a collection of diverse investments that you put together to try to maximize your returns. So Ray revealed to me that simple system, and he showed it to me. He's never showed it to anybody, all the way down to the percentage amounts of each asset. And I left this meeting with him thinking how unbelievably generous this man was. And I thought this is going to be incredible, but I had no idea how incredible. When I went back and had the financial experts go back and test his exact formula back 30 years, back to 1984 to 2013, here's what's unbelievable. It was right 85% of the time. He made money 85% of the time. The biggest loss on the 15% when he wasn't was only 3.93%, less than 4%. And on average, that was, by the way, was 2008, when the market was down over 51% from top to bottom. And the average loss was 1.9%. Think about that. Of those 4 losses that he had during that time, one was 0.03%. Technically, it was break even, but we're going to call it a loss. So imagine if in 2008, when everybody else is freaking out, losing half of what they built in their entire life, you'd been applying a strategy like what Ray has described, and you literally could have been in a position where you were protected from losing all that you had. And by using that same plan, by the way, the average return that Ray's plan has done over those 30 and 40-year periods is just under 10% per year on average, compounded. I mean, when you're compounding at that level, you get to double your money very rapidly. All of a sudden, your money's working for you. You're not working for your money. And that's only one of the systems that you're going to learn from the world's greatest investors that's in this book, and especially section 6 of this book, which I call Invest Like the 0.001%. I call it the Billionaire's Playbook. Now, I know you want to jump ahead right now and you want to look up the portfolio that Ray put here, but I want to remind you something. There are 7 simple steps here, and you need to follow these in order. There's a method to my madness. If you jump ahead, you're going to figure out what the formula is to invest, but you haven't figured out yet what your goals are. If you don't know yet the rules of the game investing, you're going to get hurt. If you got access to the best portfolio in the world, but you don't know what your risk tolerance is, the information could be pretty much worthless. So stay with me, and let's stay in sequence. As I say, there's a method to the madness here, and I can promise you it'll get results. How valuable, by the way, is this information from Ray Dalio, just among one of the 50 people that we talk with here in this book? Well, if others had to pay $5 billion to get access to that kind of information, and it only took you the cost of this book, then it wasn't a bad return on your investment already. So as exciting as this investment system is to learn, what I found that was more interesting about Ray is how he looks at the world. He sees the world as a jungle. And he says it's like life is a jungle, and it's constantly exhilarating. It's a battle, he said. It's like, the way I look at life, he said to me, is we want something that represents a greater quality of life, and it's over there. And to get over there or what we want, whatever our dream or goal is, we got to go through this jungle with all these challenges in it. And if you get through the jungle, if you pass through it and you get to the other side, you get the life you desire. But he said, it's like, I'm on one side of the jungle, he told me, and you have this terrific job, a terrific life. But if you cross through the jungle, you can have everything you dreamed about. You got to go through dangerous things. You got to deal with things that are going to try and take you out. Do you stay on one side where you're comfortable with a safe life? Or do you go through the jungle and get to what you really desire or deserve? For Ray, his answer is go through the jungle. He goes there with very smart and trusted friends around his side, and he's always asking, what don't I know? That's the key thing he told me. He said, Tony, what I've been very successful in doing throughout my whole life is not being arrogant about knowing. I embrace the fact that I have weaknesses, and what I don't know, I want to find the answers. And he said, the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. Now, is that ever the truth? I know when I started, going through this example of doing these interviews for this book, I've been working with Paul Tudor Jones for decades, one of the greatest financial investors in history. And so during that 4-year quest, I'm meeting the best investors on earth, and I was humbled over and over again by how little I really knew, as much as I thought I knew. And I found that unlike the talking heads on television who claim to have all the answers, the best are essentially humble. People like Ray Dalio, they'll tell you what they think, and then they'll admit they could be wrong. And more importantly, they'll give you a system so you can succeed even when they are wrong. So that's the promise of this book. So finally, as my journey continued, I found my mission was evolving. At each step along the way, I was discovering tools and opportunities and investment products that are available only to ultra-wealthy people, which the average person never hears about. And ironically, some of those incredible investments have very limited risk. But what these top investors call asymmetrical risk reward, big words. It just simply means they look to how to get big upside by taking very, very little downside exposure. Little risk, big rewards. And that's what the smart money lives for. So it was really exciting for me to find out what some of these opportunities were, and I've taken advantage of many of them for myself as a result and profited accordingly. But at this stage of my life, I'm old enough and I'm fortunate enough, I'm well off enough now financially to have these choices. But my sons, my daughter, my friends, many of them don't have that. So I really decided that more importantly than just finding these things out, I didn't want to tell you about all these great things ultra-wealthy people can do, but only people with tens of millions stashed away can do it, who can work with guys like Ray Dalio. I wanted to change my mission. I wanted to take charge here and become not just a passive information gatherer for you in this book, but become a passionate advocate for my friends, for my family, and for my readers. So I'm not just going to tell you in this book something about what wealthy people do. I'm going to open up those opportunities to you, show you how you can do it with tiny amounts of money. So in order to do that, I looked around for companies that were focused exclusively on giving this incredible advice to ultra wealthy people. And then I worked, and I've been working on it now for almost 2 years, this part of it, to convince them to be able to create these opportunities for investors at any economic level, at any age level, if you will. And I worked to highlight their services here in this book. And in some cases, I've gone all in and partnered with them to help create new products that never existed before for the average person, but wealthy people have had access to. And what I'm most proud of is that I've persuaded many of them to open up their services to people who are not wealthy for free. For example, less than 50% of the United States has more than $25,000 of investable assets, $25,000 that they can possibly invest in all their accounts. Those people are usually taken full advantage of. I've gotten these ultra-wealthy organizations to put together strategies where they'll give you this advice and you can do it yourself and they don't charge you a dime. And if you are above $25,000 and you want some help with them, you can click a button and those people assist you. So in the pages that follow, you're going to learn about, for example, a revolutionary strategic venture between two organizations that I brought together, Stronghold Financial and Hightower. Hightower is the 5th largest investment advisory firm in the United States. They're the 13th fastest growing company in Inc. magazine's history, or currently. And their focus is how do you bring transparent, non-conflict advice to ultra-wealthy people. Now, just so you understand, they're not providing that for people who need it, to be fair. Ultra-wealthy people, I guess, need it also. But I really wanted to get them to do something extraordinary. I wanted to provide those planning services that a financial planner might charge $1,000 or $1,500 for free, using their intellect and then using technology so the cost to them would be really inexpensive. And what you're going to learn about is how you can access, in this book, an online platform that allow you to test drive your broker. Basically, it'll allow you to see what you're really paying for your investments. Most people are overpaying. To find out how you're really performing by taking all your accounts and putting them together where you can see it in English, and to see what level of risk you're taking. And also even to compare it to things that other people have designed, other portfolios, even the one that Ray Dalio designed. So I'm hoping that this will be the beginning of a sea change in the world of personal finance, a real leveling of the playing field for the first time. And why in the world will Hightower do something like this, or Stronghold? The partnership between them is doing it because they want to do the right thing, because people know, basically, they both know that these people right now may not have the money to do it, but if they do the right thing for them, these people who are wealthy didn't always have money. They didn't start that way. They built that way. So they know if they do more for others, and they practice the secret to wealth, do more for others than anybody else is doing, then over time, at some stage of life in your future, maybe having been helped by these guys, they're betting that maybe you won't forget them and you'll actually become a raving fan and a loyal client later in the future. So you get the help you need right now for no money. and they get a future client. And that's a pretty cool financial synergy. That's that elusive win-win everybody talks about that you rarely see in the Wall Street environment. So think about it this way. If you belong to a generation of people that have been raised on blogs and tweets, my guess is you're saying, Tony, okay, there's a lot of talk here. You're preparing me for all this stuff, but why don't you just put these 7 steps, from out of the whole book, why don't you just put it in a paragraph for me or a blog or an infographic? And listen, I know I could do that for you, but listen to me. Knowing information is not the same as owning it and following through. And information without execution is poverty. How many people do you know what to do? They'll pound on their chest, oh, I understand this. If you're not financially free, you don't know it, you understand it. Knowing is what you're going to get out of this book. We're going to take you each step, you're going to understand it, you're going to get it in your emotion, you get it in your body, and you're going to change it, and you're going to take the actions forward that move you forward to make it happen. I'm going to show you pretty quickly here, how do you start with next to nothing and truly be financially free, even though that looks like it's impossible. But let me give you the 7 steps so you know where we're going. In this first section of the book, what we're really going to go do is we're going to begin the journey and we're going to go through that jungle. And I always say, if you want to have a great adventure, then what you really got to do is you've got to figure out what's it going to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. So in chapters like 1.4, you're going to learn about the psychology of wealth and what holds us back, and what are some of the simple cures that behavioral experts have created that can trigger you to do the right thing, to get you to unleash your ability to break through. In chapter 1.3, we're going to blast off. That's the very next chapter we're going to go to, and I'm going to talk to you about it first here on video, walk you through it. We're going to show you how to tap the power of these 7 simple steps and make the most important financial decision in your life. It's a must read. You're going to learn how even the smallest amount of money, as I said, can combine to give you the most powerful financial freedom through simple compounding. Everybody's heard about compounding. We think we understand it, but most people aren't applying it. I'm going to show you how a man who started with $14,000 a year, that's all he ever earned, developed a net worth of $70 million. That's what we're going to do on the next DVD, and that's what we're going to do in the book if you go to chapter 1.3. So think about it. You're going to decide to take some portion of your income. Step 1 of the 7 steps is stop being a consumer and start to become an investor. You're going to start to take a small amount of money that you currently earn and decide, I'm going to keep this money for my family and I'm going to make it go to work for me. I'm going to stop being a financial trader. That's right. We're all financial traders. Most of us are trading time for money, which is a terrible trade. And we're going to make money go to work for us while we sleep. So that's what we're going to do. Step 2 in the second section of the book, I'm going to show you that once you know how to get in this game, you don't want to get in until you become an insider, till you know the rules of the game. Because if you don't know the rules before you get in the game, you're going to have pain. So we've all heard that expression. I've said it so many times, right? When a person with money meets the person with experience, the person with experience ends up with your money. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen to you. And so how are we going to do that? I'm going to walk you through 9, I'd call them financial lies, investment lies, that have been systematically marketed throughout the industry. And they're things that are literally stealing your wealth from you, and most people are completely unaware of it. And some of those that are there are things that'll shock you. And as soon as you know them, I'm sure what you're going to do is you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to tell everybody else about it. The word will spread. Let's go to section 3. Once you've gone through these 9 lies and you know you've got a roadmap of what to avoid, then we need a roadmap of what to do. And before we do that, you got to make the game winnable. And in making the game winnable, here's what I mean by that. Most people, when you ask them, what's it going to take for you to be financially free or independent or even financially secure, they have no idea. They don't know their number. Or they have a number that's ridiculous. Some financial planner says, okay, you make $100,000 a year, so you need 10 times your income, and that'll give you enough in your nest egg that the interest on that will allow you to live the rest of your life at the same lifestyle. Well, if that was true, $100,000 times 10 is $1 million. You'd have to be making 10% on $1 million to get $100,000 a year. Where are you going to get 10% guaranteed a secure environment for the rest of your life? In the world we're in today, it's a joke. It's not true. So when people start doing the real number, which is 20 times $100,000, you need $2 million, they start to get overwhelmed. The number seems really large. And some people think the number is 20 million when they need $1 million. What I'm going to show you is how to make the game winnable. How would you feel if you could just have 6 things in your life covered that you never had to think about again, you never had to work for? Number 1, never again did you ever have to work to pay for your mortgage. Your home was paid for the rest of your life. Number 2, all your utilities were paid for. You didn't have to think about paying them again. Number 3, all your food needs of your family were taken care of for as long as you lived. Number 4, all your transportation needs. And let's do 5. Number 5, your basic insurance needs. If those 5 elements were handled and you didn't have to work for it, feel pretty damn good, wouldn't it? Well, that number is a lot less than the number you have in your head. In fact, it's probably 50 to 60% of that number, which means you can get there much faster. So I'm going to show you how to make the game winnable by coming up with some short-term goals that'll make you financially secure on your way to absolute financial freedom. Let's go to quick number 4. Number 4 is the most important investment decision of your life. And here's what you got to understand. Every one of the 50 plus extraordinary investors that I interviewed, the smartest minds in the financial world, from hedge fund guys, self-made billionaires, Nobel laureates, every single one of them agreed on one thing. The most important part of investing is not whether you buy a certain piece of real estate and get lucky or not, or whether you buy Apple or not, because everyone, like Ray Dalio talks about, is going to be wrong at times. What you really have to do is have what they call a bucket theory or asset allocation, knowing how to diversify your investments so that when things you can't predict happen, you don't lose money, and how to diversify your investments so when things go up, you get to take advantage of those opportunities is a simple process, but most people make it so complex. And my skill is simplifying. So I'm going to show you what I call really the ultimate bucket reward. You know, people have a bucket list. This is your bucket list. It's going to show you how to set yourself up to win. And then step 5, I'm going to show you how to create an income for life. Whenever I ask people, what are you investing for? Most people, when you ask them what they're investing for, they can't tell you. They, well, I'm building up my assets. I want to have money later in life. I want to have enough to cover my home. There's only one reason you're investing: income. Income is the purpose of investments. Whatever you're investing in, ultimately, if it doesn't convert into income, income is what buys you food. Income is what buys your house. Income is what takes you around the world on a family vacation. Income is the outcome. And so we're going to show you that there are ways today. Most of the people have heard of life insurance, of course. We don't know what that is. We may not like the sound of it, but most of us got life insurance because we don't want our family to suffer if we die. But I have a better question. What if you live? What if you live? Do you know what the number one fear is of baby boomers today? Number one fear above death? Running out of money while you're still alive. And it should be a fear because 75% of them, according to most studies, are going to run out of money before they die. Ernst & Young did a recent study. That shouldn't be you. Nobody wants to be in a position where you're 65 or 70 or 75 years old looking for a job. Being the best dressed greeter at Walmart will not be your future if you follow these 7 steps. You will have real financial freedom. So I'm going to show you how to set up a guaranteed income for life. So you don't have to wonder if the stock market's going up or down. Something some of the wealthiest and most successful people have learned to do. And then finally, the last 2 steps, step 6, I'm going to show you how to invest like the 0.001%, or what I call the billionaire's playbook. I'm going to walk you through, out of the 50 plus interviews I've done, I'm going to take you really the tremendous 12, if you will, the 12 best in the world. People like Carl Icahn, who's outstripped Warren Buffett, outstripped the stock market, outproduced everyone in terms of returns over the last 1, 5, and 10-year periods of time. I'm going to introduce you to people, for example, take a look at somebody like Mary Callahan Erdos, who's just brilliant. She manages $2.3 trillion for JP Morgan. And she's going to say, here's how you decide what to invest in, where to put your money, where not to put your money in. You just don't get access to a lady like this. Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass shows you an investment you can make today that has no risk because it's guaranteed by the government, as long as you believe the U.S. government's going to be around. And the day you do it, the thing you've invested in is worth 36% more than the day before you bought it. Sounds totally impossible, except Kyle's the same guy that if you've read some of these financial books where they talk about the guy that made all this money in the middle of a subprime crisis, he took $30 million and turned it into $2 billion in 2 years. He did it by risking 6 cents to make $1. He took little risk to make a huge reward, and he just leveraged that up. You're going to meet these people. They're going to show you how to invest like the absolute best on earth. And finally, the final step 7 is just do it, live it, enjoy it, and share it. And I'm going to take you through a checklist so that you're walking through this. I've got an app for you that'll make sure you're reminded to go through each step along the way to be successful. And then I'm going to show you some of the secrets that are going to really make sure you enjoy it. You say, Tony, you get me financially secure and free for a lifetime. I can handle the enjoyment part. Well, I'm sure you can, but I think you're going to be interested to learn that there's some secrets that a lot of people have a ton of money and they're still miserable. And there are a lot of people that have small amounts of money and they're incredibly fulfilled. And science has proven, and they can measure what makes you happy. And I'll give you a clue. It can be measured all the way down to your biochemistry or the test of your saliva. I'm going to show you what the science shows and show you some fun things that you can do so that along the way, you can enjoy the level of wealth you want. So I've thrown a lot at you. This is like the first chapter of the book, kind of just dumping it on top of your head to give you a sense of what's really possible here, to give you an opportunity to say, if you're willing right now, my purpose here is get you to say, I am going to master this. All that I've thrown at you on top of you, we're going to do one step at a time, one section at a time, and you're going to master each step until you really get yourself where you are totally financially secure for life. And if you want, perhaps financially free, where you can do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whoever you want, at the level you want. Are you up for such a game? If you are, then I'd say pick up the book and begin. Or if this is not enough to convince you, in a couple of days, I'll be back with you with another video. And this video I know will hook you because now we're going to get practical. I wanted to give you the overview here. Now I'm going to show you literally how do you start with next to nothing, use the power of compounding to truly get where you want to be financially. That'll be our next video. Till then, enjoy the chapter, enjoy your life, live with passion, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye-bye. Oh, one more thing. I want to make sure that you remember that we're doing this for you, but we're also doing this to reach more people. So I hope, maybe if you got this video, I hope that you saw that first video where I explained that this book, it's going to change your life, but you and I together are going to also help people that most of society's forgotten. And remember, 77% of America thinks that, they don't know what they're going to do with their future. They have tremendous financial stress. But you got, what now, 17 million children out there every night that are not sure if they're going to have food. So I really want you, if you would, to please be sure, if you like what you're seeing and like what you're reading in this book, spread the word. Go to Amazon, go to Facebook and so forth, because we're going to feed 50 million people. I'm feeding 50 million. With your help, we can feed 100 million people, because we're going to get the word out. I'm going to get matching funds. And I hope if you love this book, when we're all done, and right now I know this first chapter is just telling you everything. It might feel a little overwhelming, but I promise you, the next video you see, or when you get that book, and you start seeing that I can start with $40 a week and I can have $500,000 in short order over a period of time, or that I can find a way to invest and I can be in the stock market and never have a guarantee not to lose money and still get most of the upside and get rid of all the stress in your life. When you start learning some of these tools that allow you to literally achieve your goals 30 to 50% faster by eliminating the taxes, by following a tool that the IRS has pre-approved and the ultra wealthy people use every single day, and you can use it. When you start learning those things in this book, I'm asking you that you not only use it for yourself, but you share it. Tell as many people as possible and help me get this book out if you would. I'm not making any money on the damn book. All of it's been donated in advance and then some, like a large sum above that, to feed 50 million people, but I'd love to feed 100 million. And every book that we sell, Simon & Schuster is going to donate notes from a friend to a family in need, so they get food for the body and food for the mind. So I'm just saying that now because sometimes when you get reading, you get all excited and think about it, but I'm asking you if you would please share it. And I promise you the next video I'll send to you, it's going to inspire you, because now we're going to get real practical about what it takes to go from where you are to where you want to be financially, and show you don't have to make a fortune to do it. Those people who make a ton of money often end up broke. Very much like you see what happens very often to people that win a lottery and then a few years later it's gone. I'm going to show you how to make sure that you have the reverse of that situation. Start with a little, end up with a lot. All right? Thanks again for your time. Look forward to the next video in a few days. Take good care. God bless.